Hey, it's your buddy Peace and Harmony with you here today. We are focusing in on the experience of the narcissist and ego and blame shifting. It's recently come up in a lot of viewer questions and comments about the hurtful aspect of a narcissist. Someone who has an inflated sense of self-importance. And then coupled with a lack of empathy, if we can kind of boil it down to those chief components, it'll help you really understand this person, their behavior, their unquenchable desire to control and overpower and dominate others and kind of create an image that they want of themselves within your perspective versus allowing you to have your own experience of them, arrive at your own voice, your own values, your own assessment of their personality, or really how they treat you, how they treat others, and things of that nature. And I'd like to go into a little bit more in depth here in this video on the narcissist ego. And if we look at psychoanalysis and the Freudian model of psychoanalysis, he is really the father of psychoanalysis. And a lot of you are familiar with Sigmund Freud. He developed the concept of the id, the ego, and the superego. And just in a nutshell, the id is kind of that primordial, impulsive, childlike part of yourself, which is the id. It's like the unformed ego. It has, a lot of basis in happiness and impulsivity and spontaneity, and it's full with desire and pleasure. And then you have the ego, and then the superego. The superego is kind of like the conscience. It kind of tells you what integrity is, what right or wrong is, what principles, what values, your higher nature, if you will. And really the ego is the interfacing between the id and the superego. So it's the reality tester. It's the I am. And it's the I, and then it is the you, but it is connected and aligned with those personality constructs. And just to keep it very simple, if we look at, because I know it's a common terminology, oh, that guy has such a big ego, maybe he's a narcissist. Well, it's very important to realize that the narcissist is not very in touch with a true, founded, and aligned sense of I am, and really sort of a true ego, which is based in the combination or the reality testing between the id and the superego. Because the narcissist has such a hurt or wounded ego, remember the testing between the id and the superego, because they have such a core of shame and humiliation and degradation, that they feel insecure or inferior. And so because of this root of their I am, whether it's conscious, which means readily apparent, meaning they might constantly say out loud to myself, I'm so stupid, I hate myself, I'm so inferior, that's being conscious, aware of it. If you are unaware, that is called your unconscious. So right now your unconscious is doing all sorts of activities for you. It's helping your heartbeat. It's causing electric impulses to flow through your skin. It's picking up information on what the chair feels like, what the couch feels like, what the temperature of the room is, where the lighting is. It's sending in so much information. We have billions, hundreds of billions of nerve cells in our brain. And if that doesn't make you feel special and unique, I don't know what does, but, you have, billions and billions and probably trillions of cells throughout your whole body that perform all sorts of different miraculous functions and, transferring, your food into glucose to make it readily available for energies, for respiration and all your senses. But your unconscious basically runs the show for about 95% of your activities. And really only between like 3 and 5% is conscious in your conscious awareness. In that conscious, which is the I am, which we focus here on the channel of developing and strengthening and getting in tune and aware and intimate with that I am, and using more of that on a regular, daily, consistent basis. It has to be practiced over time. It's not like you just, watch a couple peace and harmony videos, it's you need to, do this and keep going on it and do your recovery journal and work on your I ams and keep your visualization up and being in touch with your I ams and, feeling the emotions of commitment and trust, and all this to really create that. So that creates, what we call a strength in yourself. That becomes a sense of security, and that becomes your reliability, and that is a source of trust. And it's an internal mechanism. It's an internal, as we say, locus of control. You can feel the lever. Like if you were to take, a lever, just that you could press down on, and you could make something, like a hole puncher, you would work that lever. Now, when you really have that inside and you control and have dominion over your I am, you're having more of a sense and control of your emotions. So it's not just, I'm a typer, I'm a walker, I'm a runner, it becomes an also I am over your emotions as well. And you get kind of in touch with this very intangible part of yourself, which is, your heart, which is your self-esteem, which is your respect, it's your self-respect, it's your respect you have for others, your judgment or criticism of others or not. It's your opinions, it's what you feel when you see your national flag, it's what you feel when you see a great piece of artwork, when you see a beautiful sculpture, when you see a beautiful person. I mean, these are your emotions, it's energy and motion, and it's feelings, and it really kind of creates then and it helps your cognitions and feel go, and it creates so much of your experience, and it also is responsible for fueling and really helping solidify a lot of your memories, in which we code positive or negative. So anyway, so that is your ego and the I am. And then, as we say, people who have a frail ego, perhaps after being wounded, they have what we call sea legs, or what I'm calling sea legs, or ego sea legs. They're not quite grounded, secure in themselves. They don't have that really solid, sturdy sense of I am. It hasn't grown. It hasn't been tempered long enough where, the wind has made it resilient and strong, and then the fibers are really there. So we talk about the fibers of your being, and that is, really through repetition and experience, and fueling your voice with your actions and your emotions and practicing it, and then seeing the results, and that is your ego. And the healed ego is basically what we're focusing in here on the channel. And the narcissist is really kind of lacking in that security, that self-trust. They are feeling and really kind of have an ownership of the feeling that I am less than, I'm not adequate. There's something about me that I've experienced or feel about myself, either through injury as a child, maybe their upbringing, where they grew up. They feel this inferior sense. And the people who really rise above and overcome these huge challenges in life, then become to have a very strong sense of self and purpose. And they don't need to inflict hurt on others in order to do that. They don't need to create a lot of defense mechanisms, blame shifting, guilting, scapegoating, insulting, the sardonic, sarcastic humor, the making the butt of, the joke, everyone else is the butt of their jokes, not being able to give credit where credit is due, not being able to, talk to others in a respectful manner, where they're interested in you, because they're lacking the empathy, because empathy would be too scary for them. They have a real deficit where they basically shut it down. It's too painful. It is too uncomfortable for them to lay aside their needs to power and dominate and create that persona control, that mass control. They need to keep that engaged versus being able to understand and hear how you're really doing. So they're not able to do that. I mean, to them, it's like giving up everything. It's like giving up their fight, their battle. They feel defeated when they listen to others. They feel so inadequate, and they feel so inferior that if they were to let that guard down or allow themselves to feel that, I mean, they would probably, hit the track like they had 100 miles to run at 60 miles an hour. I mean, they are terrified of that. And oftentimes it's a creation in the mind. It doesn't have anything to do with reality. So the feeling of being inferior or less than, assigning that judgment is within them. And so you might see a lot of the false accusations or the insulting and blaming, because they're already trying to beat you up for the accusatory insults that they feel that they have already kind of punished themselves with. And I know that this is really intense, good stuff. So run this again and again and again, but realize that the ego is so wounded or so untested or so unprocessed and so stuck in a negative id that, and a really critical self, super ego, that they just kind of mash down that ego and basically, grind it down. And then they need this inflated sense of superiority, which is really oftentimes unfounded, or driven by a sense of entitlement, and will take. It's that id, it's that unscrupulous id, that immature, spontaneous, raw, sort of very insatiable part of them, which doesn't have the combination of gratitude and that super ego with integrity and consciousness and morality and fairness and justice and don't touch this, it'll hurt you, sort of temperament. They really want to disengage that because they feel this id, and then to them it's a sense of entitlement, deserving, and they need to deflect a lot of the hurt onto others, and they won't even give people a chance through empathy to listen. So if you feel shut out by someone who seems like they have such a big ego, and perhaps if you're dealing with a narcissist, consider the fact that their ego is so wounded that they have to blow out their, blow out this sort of negative, almost unscrupulous id, which is their childish part, and sort of kind of battle you and bully you with that, versus really having a super, a really large ego. Perhaps there's a really an ego deficit which you're feeling, and that you feel kind of like sucked into that energy and hurt by it, rather than it being really a truly based ego based in reality and reality testing. Peace and harmony with you here today. I hope that these videos do help. Please share and please subscribe for more great tools, videos, discussion, and support.